It's hard to believe that in this part of the world, trees like this are still cut down by companies like Weyerhaeuser. This ancient Douglas fir must be close to 1,000 years old. It's well over 10 feet in diameter, and there's only 1 to 2% of these giant ancient Douglas firs left compared to their former historic abundance. And Weyerhaeuser is systematically liquidating them on southern Vancouver Island. And I think this is preposterous that Weyerhaeuser is still cutting down giants like this. And in this clear cut are also 10-foot diameter western red cedars. This is 2004. Canadian and American public opinion is against the liquidation of these ancient forest giants, especially when there's so little left. And it's only an extremist company that is moving to eliminate these forests and replace them with tree plantations. Much structurally simpler ecosystems that lack the old growth dependent species that originally existed in this forest. And the question here is not whether or not clear cuts grow back, because after a few more years you're going to see more conifer seedlings, and they replant these clear cuts as well. It's not a question of whether or not the clear cuts grow back generally. It's a question of whether or not the original ecosystem here is replicated by the tree plantations, and that's clearly not the case. Right now, the forests in the upper Walbran Valley, the remaining ancient forests, are still connected together. And the connectivity that still exists in the upper Walbran allows for the remaining species that live in the old growth to essentially move unhampered by the clear cuts. And that'll be severed if Weyerhaeuser is allowed to continue with their next 5-year plan. So the campaign to protect the Walbran Valley really goes back about 15 years in 1989, when the provincial government of the time identified the Walbran as an old-growth forest of provincial significance. In 1990, there was hundreds of people took part in building trails through the endangered valley. In 1991, almost 500 people took part in the blockades to stop the logging. Over 50 of them got arrested. By 1994, the NDP government ended up protecting half of the valley, the lower Walbran, leaving the upper half, the upper Walbran, open for logging. Since then, there's been numerous blockades and rallies and educational newspapers and news coverage. Several people have been arrested. The pressure has been continuing, and it's just a matter of time until we protect the valley because it's reached an international level now. There's people concerned about the upper Walbran around the world, and it's just a matter of time until the companies Weyerhaeuser and Teal Jones are forced out of the valley through markets pressure, and then the provincial government will be forced to establish some kind of legislated protection. At that point, this ecosystem will finally be safe. The entire watershed by that point will have been protected. So down below we have the most incredible western red cedar stand in the whole country, the Castle Grove. The lower Castle Grove is the flat area here and consists of hundreds of near record size western red cedars, anywhere from 5 to 16 feet in diameter. It's an incredible area, and it has cougars, black bears, wolves, deer, Roosevelt elk, the endangered Queen Charlotte goshawk. And over here on the right, on this slope over here, is the upper Castle Grove. And the upper Castle Grove consists of many giant western red cedars as well as ancient Douglas firs. Nowhere in Canada will you find a grove of ancient western red cedars with so many large trees in so close proximity to each other in as geographically extensive an area as this. There's more biomass here than virtually anywhere in the whole country. This is a classic ancient forest. It has the characteristics that distinguish it from the young plantations that'll come up due to replanting efforts after they cut down groves like this. This ancient forest here has a multi-layered canopy. You have huge trees like this, you have small trees, and everything in between. So the canopy levels are at different heights, and different species live in different heights in the canopy. You also have a lot of woody debris, standing and fallen dead trees. And a lot of the diversity in bats and birds and salamanders, the things that make old growth forests unique, is associated with the dead wood. Ironically, a dead tree supports more life than a living tree because the nutrients are then made available for other organisms, and there's a lot of nooks and crannies that develop that things can live inside. Now the unfortunate thing is Teal Jones is planning to cut down the upper Castle Grove right behind us. This whole area is slated for logging, and it's going to be a hell of a fight from the people of BC to stop that. If we let Weyerhaeuser and Teal Jones have their way with the valley, then an international gem like this, it'll be ruined if Weyerhaeuser and Teal Jones get their way. A place like this, like the Castle Grove, might sustain about a dozen workers for 1 or 2 years. But then we would lose the treasure, this area that deserves international recognition, and we'd lose it forever. And the Walbran Valley here is right next to the West Coast Trail, an internationally recognized trail that people come to hike all around the world. We're on southern Vancouver Island, in close proximity to both Vancouver and Victoria. This is the most spectacular of the ancient forests in BC because it's the most southerly latitude, coastal, low elevation. So the trees are bigger here than anywhere else. It's a place that's got all the attributes for an incredible ecotourism business. In terms of forestry workers' jobs, there is a place for forestry jobs, but not in the most unique, special, and most important areas for tourism, with the most incredible potential for an ecotourism industry. When it comes to forestry workers' jobs, what we need to do is ban raw log exports. The BC Liberal government now allows 1 in 4 coastal logs to be exported to the United States, providing no milling jobs in this province. The high-grade logging going on in British Columbia, essentially cutting out the valley bottoms, leaving more and more marginal and difficult to access timber high up, is causing mills to shut down as they become unprofitable. And of course there's mechanization, replacing people with machines. So the parks have done very little to eliminate forestry workers' jobs. It's generally as a result of corporate policies of downsizing and mechanization and basically cleaning out the best first. So it's just incredibly short-sighted to think that by logging a place like the Castle Grove and the Upper Walbran Valley, you're going to have a net amount of jobs. And that's just taking us in the wrong direction in this province. We believe that significant political and social and change for the environment comes to an educated citizenry. It's an educated citizenry that exerts the ultimate lobby pressure on government as well as the ultimate consumer pressure on corporations. So the way to save the Walbran will essentially be a lot of people who know and care, who exercise their democratic right to let government know what they think about whether or not an incredible place like this should be clear-cut, and as well as letting corporations know, customers of Teal Jones and Weyerhaeuser, know whether or not they should be purchasing from these companies as long as they clear-cut an incredible valley like the Upper Walbran. So it's important to get involved. All the letters you write, all the phone calls you make to the corporations or to the government, all the rallies and demonstrations you attend, determining what you're going to buy, all of that put together makes a big difference. Writing letters to the editor in the newspaper. The trick is get involved, and it'll be through sheer force of numbers of concerned voters and consumers that together will turn this issue around.
My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down.
I am a bear climbing through the woods.
I am a bear climbing through the woods. I am a bear climbing through the woods. My roots go down. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down.
What we have, this is the tree of life that's being cut all over the world. This is the tipping point for the tree of life. Today, we're declaring it. And that we, into this space, are declaring that we are pushing back from the brink of this reckless destruction. That's the concept. Yeah! It's a simple message. Wake up. It's a wake-up call for the world. It's a wake-up call for the world.